unsurprising. This is the biggest fight in Japanese history between two, elite Japanese fighters. And I understand styles make fights. I get it. But in this case, I guess what I'm reacting to is Inoue is what I consider one of these super fighters. His speed, his reflexes, his power. Mike, what's the word I always like to use? The
twitchies.
Twitchies are different, right? They're elite. And Junto is like as good as it gets for a normally excellent fighter.
And I also think, I just won't be surprised. And as you all know, I already have. I'm going with Junto as a favorite in this, as far as my personal. So it won't be a big upset to me. I can't see someone with his type of technically sound game, with his system, with his work rate. I just don't see guys like that ever as an underdog in anything.
Max Kellerman delivered a deep and detailed breakdown of the massive showdown between Naoya Inoue and Junto Nakatani, analyzing every important angle of a fight many experts believe could become one of the most technical and explosive battles in modern boxing. According to Kellerman, this matchup represents far more than just another title defense. It is a collision between two elite Japanese champions who currently sit among the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world.
Clash of two top 10 pound-for-pound fighters. The number 2 pound-for-pound fighter in all the world, the monster, Naoya Inoue, takes on number 6 Junto Nakatani at the Tokyo.
Kellerman pointed out that betting odds favor Naoya Inoue by roughly 3-1, showing that most analysts and oddsmakers see him as the superior fighter entering the contest. However, he strongly warned fans against overlooking Junto Nakatani simply because Inoue carries the bigger reputation. Kellerman compared the situation to historic fights like Mike Tyson versus Evander Holyfield, where a dominant favorite still struggled against an intelligent, highly skilled opponent capable of exposing weaknesses.
Ordinarily, when you have a clash of top 10 pound-for-pounders, there's a lot of buildup. But this one feels as though, at least from where we're sitting in LA, that it's flown a bit under the radar. Now, in the first place, it's two tiny division fighters, right? Once you get below lightweight, especially featherweight, the American public has a tendency anyway to think, well, they're kind of tiny guys and be a little less interested. They're both Japanese fighters, and so the fight's taking place halfway around the world from here, and they haven't been marketed in this country the way they've been marketed in Japan for obvious reasons. And also, Inoue is about a 3-1 favorite, so it's not considered a 50.
While Max Kellerman leaned toward Inoue as the rightful favorite, boxing insider Mike Coppinger disagreed with the idea that the matchup is one-sided. Coppinger argued that the fight is much closer than many fans assume and believes Nakatani's overall skill set gives him a legitimate chance of creating serious problems. According to him, the public may underestimate Nakatani because Inoue's recent dominance has made him appear nearly unbeatable, but stylistically this fight is more competitive than previous Inoue matchups.
Tyson Holyfield. Does this have a little shade of that, where Mike Tyson would have always been a big favorite against Holyfield, right? In retrospect, he shouldn't have been, but at the time he would have been. Then he loses, goes to prison, Holyfield becomes champion. And going into their fight, which had been postponed for years, Mike hadn't looked as good since he was still champ. He had looked better than he had in years, beating the hell out of Frank Bruno. Better than he'd beaten Frank Bruno the first time, even though Bruno was coming off a good win. While Holyfield fought a blown-up middleweight, ultimately, in Bobby Ches, and looked horrible. So heading into that fight, people thought Tyson would win anyway, but now it was like, okay. Inoue looked better than Nakatani last time out.
Unified champion Jesse Rodriguez also gave his opinion on the fight, showing respect for both men while slightly favoring Inoue to win. Rodriguez praised both fighters as elite champions operating at the highest level of boxing, but stated that Inoue's speed, experience, explosiveness, and finishing ability give him a slight edge. At the same time, Rodriguez made it clear that he is closely watching the outcome because he hopes to eventually fight the winner himself.
Closer to a 55-45 fight, maybe in favor of Inoue. Look, Inoue is he's a future Hall of Famer, first ballot, he's an all-time great, so he deserves that respect. And I was ringside on the call for those two fights in December in Riyadh, and like Malik said, that was a really tough style. Nakatani, Sebastian Hernandez, pressure style, Mexican, first fight of 122. So to me, I felt more encouraged going into this fight instead of less. And I just think maybe it's flying under the radar because it's going to be on very early morning in the U.S., this fight's in Japan. Just this morning they announced, Max, this is a sold-out fight at the Tokyo Dome. They're going to have 55,000.
Veteran trainer Joel Diaz sided strongly with Naoya Inoue,
predicting that Inoue's power and precision would eventually overwhelm Nakatani. Diaz explained that Inoue's timing is among the best in boxing today and highlighted his devastating body punching as one of the key weapons that could break Nakatani down over time. According to Diaz, Inoue does not simply rely on raw knockout power. Instead, he systematically destroys opponents with accurate combinations, intelligent pressure, and perfectly timed attacks that slowly wear fighters down physically and mentally.
About down the line, not next, but definitely down the line, would love to see you fight either against Nakatani or Inoue. Do you want to maybe say who you favor in that fight between the two?
I think Inoue wins the fight, just because he has more experience. He's been in the weight division longer than Nakatani has, so I do favor Inoue, but Nakatani, he does have a chance as well, just because he has that kind of one-punch power.
Maybe that could be the big fight in your hometown, right?
Yeah, hopefully. If not, I don't mind going to Japan either. I love going to Japan. I love spending. Yeah, I love spending time there. So.
Oh, so you have traveled there before?
Yeah, I've been there plenty of times. But like I said, either San Antonio or Japan. I don't care.
Former multi-division world champion Nonito Donaire also shared strong praise for Naoya Inoue, describing him as the toughest and most powerful opponent he has ever faced during his long and successful career. Donaire explained that Inoue's explosiveness, speed, accuracy, and relentless pressure make him uniquely dangerous compared to other champions. Their fights pushed Donaire to his physical limits and convinced him that Inoue belongs among the true elite fighters of this generation.
Inoue, you faced him a couple times against Nakatani. Just how do you think that one goes?
You know, I've been against Inoue twice. You know, and I seen that fighter in person. I mean, I've been in the ring with him. He's fast. He's strong. Confident, and I've also been against Nakatani. I've been against Nakatani before with Tito Acosta. I just think that Nakatani will put up a fight, but Inoue will stop it.
He's been dropped by a few left hands. Donaire hurt him with a left hand,
but he gets up and he still wins. But I just think that Nakatani, I mean, he's not ready for Inoue yet. I just think that fight will end up.
Former champion Chris Algieri predicted that Inoue would ultimately win, but not in an easy or straightforward manner. Algieri expects a close and highly competitive contest that likely goes the distance instead of ending in an early knockout. According to him, the fight could feature dramatic momentum swings, tactical adjustments, and even possible knockdowns from both fighters.
A lot of things, you know, I think the best guy that I faced, and maybe perhaps if I was younger, it might be a different story, but at the moment of who I am in this time, I would say Inoue is the toughest that I've faced, or the strongest that I've faced.
You mentioned Inoue is probably potentially the best fighter that you've faced in your career. What is it about him that gives you that distinction?
I think it was like facing the younger me. You know, there's just a lot of similarities in terms of power, explosiveness, and sometimes intelligence. You know, but I think a lot of it is given the similarities is what makes.
Mike Coppinger also suggested that a convincing victory over Nakatani could elevate Naoya Inoue to the #1 pound-for-pound position in boxing, potentially surpassing Alexander Usyk in the global rankings. According to Coppinger, everything would depend on the overall boxing landscape at the time and the quality of competition surrounding the sport's elite champions. Nevertheless, defeating a dangerous and undefeated fighter like Nakatani in dominant fashion would significantly strengthen Inoue's claim as the best boxer in the world regardless of weight class.
This is another one that's going to be neck and neck. I'm going off of Inoue because of the experience that he has and who he's done it with. You know, that Fulton destruction was a beautiful thing, and that was all boxing IQ. That was an IQ. That wasn't about speed. That wasn't about power. That was IQ, and he set everything up beautifully with the jab. So, yeah, I'm gonna go Naoya Inoue on IQ as well.
All right, it's time for our predictions. Inoue versus Nakatani. I always go first. I'm putting you.
Trainer Malik Scott agreed with the idea that Inoue deserves consideration for the #1 pound-for-pound spot. Scott argued that Inoue's resume, dominance, and willingness to consistently face dangerous opponents separate him from many champions in modern boxing. He emphasized that Inoue continues challenging elite fighters rather than protecting his status against weaker opposition, and that level of ambition should be rewarded in pound-for-pound discussions.
Scott then have a case for Usyk's #1 pound-for-pound spot? Mike?
Yes, absolutely, Max. I mean, we're talking about knocking off the pound guy. If he does it in fashion, I think you have to put Inoue number one at that point. I mean, obviously, especially when you compare Usyk's going to be fighting Rico Verhoeven, right, a kickboxer, so he's not going to be able to really strengthen his resume, even if he blows out Verhoeven. Whereas if Inoue beats Nakatani in fashion, in convincing, I think you have to put him number one.
Max Kellerman also addressed discussions surrounding Inoue's rise through multiple weight classes. While acknowledging that Inoue has already accomplished extraordinary things by winning titles across several divisions, Kellerman cautioned fans against oversimplifying those achievements. He explained that the weight jumps between lower divisions are relatively small compared to the dramatic climbs seen in some other boxing eras.
If you start fighting the wrestler or the kickboxer, it makes it hard, especially if people are bringing up, what about Caballel? What about obviously Moses Atama? And you're opting instead, or the names you're mentioning, how about this kickboxer? How about Deontay Wilder, who's past his prime? And you're 38 years old? I think what Mike is saying has validity. Where are you with that?
I'm with Mike on that totally, especially it doesn't help right now because Usyk is fighting, a kickboxer. He's basically taking a chance with something that, many of us wouldn't even consider a risk with the kickboxer. And then when you turn the page and you look at what Inoue is facing and maybe possibly facing in the future, considering Espinoza, considering Van Rodriguez, I would say you have to put him right under Usyk.
Many experts believe that if Inoue defeats Nakatani successfully, his next major opponents should either be Jesse Bam Rodriguez or Rafael Espinoza. Both fighters are considered extremely risky but highly rewarding matchups capable of defining Inoue's legacy forever. Bam Rodriguez brings elite speed, technical skill, ring IQ, and pound-for-pound talent that could challenge Inoue in ways very few fighters can. Meanwhile, Rafael Espinoza presents a completely different danger due to his size, pressure, reach, and physicality at higher weight classes. Malik Scott explained that for a fighter as accomplished as Inoue, only elite-level opponents truly matter now. According to Scott, Bam Rodriguez and Rafael Espinoza represent the most meaningful tests available because they each possess attributes capable of genuinely threatening Inoue inside the ring.
I agree with you on paper. However, again, Inoue has already jumped a bunch of divisions. Right. Now, let's not overstate it. In that weight territory, a division is 4 pounds. So it's not like he moved up the way Pacquiao moved all the way up to junior middleweight. But he has moved up a bunch.
He's nice though, Max.
He's nice with his hands, but also he was a devastating puncher until just now. Yes. And now you're asking him to go one more division up to fight a killer in that division. You like Inoue's chances more than Shushu's or Angelo Leo or anyone?
I like Inoue. He has a ceiling though. He has a ceiling concerning going up in the weight classes.
Inoue. Yes, but to be clear, I'm not saying I'd pick Inoue over Espinoza. You said the best shot. Yes, for me it's no question because the only elite fighter I think at featherweight is Espinoza. And I agree, Shushu and a couple of more fights will be more ready. I don't think Shushu's ever going to be on the level of Espinoza the way I see it right now. And I think if you talk to people behind the scenes,
Jesse Rodriguez has repeatedly made it clear that he wants the fight with Naoya Inoue. He believes a showdown between them is inevitable if both continue winning and maintaining their positions as elite champions. Rodriguez even expressed willingness to travel to Japan to make negotiations easier, demonstrating how serious he is about securing the opportunity. He views Inoue as one of the biggest challenges in boxing and understands that defeating a fighter of Inoue's status would dramatically elevate his own career. With promoters already discussing the possibility and both camps showing interest, many fans see Inoue versus Bam Rodriguez as one of the sport's most exciting future super fights.
Then most like to see him face next, Mike? Is it like, let's hold on, let's just say, is it anyone other than either Bam moving up or Inoue moving up to fight Espinoza?
No, that's it. Those are the two options, Max. And I want to see Bam first before Inoue moves up. You have Bam moving up to 118 in June for the first time. So he's getting closer now. And I want to see that fight next if Inoue does win as expected. Again, I'm not thinking of Nakatani at all, though. I think Nakatani's going to give Inoue all he can handle. But So talking about lower weights, Inoue and Bam Rodriguez is one of the biggest fights probably in history below 126.
Yeah, you know, I agree. I think Bam, the reason, Malik, that you look at Inoue and Bam, should Inoue beat Nakatani, is those are both special, super, top 5 pound for pound, twitchy, speed, power, skill, the whole thing type fighters, and that's...
Interestingly, Junto Nakatani himself has openly praised Naoya Inoue, calling him the current pound-for-pound #1 fighter in boxing. Nakatani stated that Inoue's blend of speed, timing, power, aggression, and ring intelligence separates him from everyone else in the sport. He acknowledged how difficult it is to prepare for someone with such precision and relentless offensive pressure. Rather than showing arrogance, Nakatani expressed genuine respect for Inoue's accomplishments and admitted that few fighters possess such a complete skill set. Those comments further reinforced how highly respected Inoue has become among fellow world champions.
Inoue finally getting in there, that's a fight that will define this era in the lower weight classes?
I think so. I think me against Inoue would definitely be, if not one of the biggest fights in the lower weight divisions.
Do you have a prep?
Hall of Fame level analyst Tim Bradley provided one of the most technical breakdowns of the matchup. Bradley described Nakatani as an extremely clever and rangy fighter who uses distance brilliantly to control opponents. He explained that Nakatani becomes especially dangerous when opponents attempt to close the gap because he excels at punching between exchanges and intercepting incoming attacks with precise counters. Bradley believes those abilities could trouble Inoue if he becomes careless during aggressive exchanges. He specifically mentioned that Inoue sometimes drops his opposite hand while throwing powerful punches and occasionally loses positioning after missing shots. Against a sharp counter puncher like Nakatani, those small mistakes could become dangerous. However, Bradley also emphasized that Inoue's greatest strength is adaptability. According to Bradley, Inoue can rapidly adjust timing, rhythm, pressure, and tactics depending on what the fight requires, making this matchup incredibly technical and unpredictable.
Tony, who do you think is pound for pound #1 boxer on the planet right now?
今パウンドパウンドで一番強い選手っていうのはどなたというふうにお考えですか？
まあ僕の名前を言いたいところですけど、まあ井上選手を評価しているので、まあその井上選手に勝ってパウンドフォーパウンド1位になりたいなっていうふうに思ってます。
I would have been preferred if I could say I myself, but he's embarrassed, but
For Junto Nakatani, a victory over Naoya Inoue would completely transform his career and instantly elevate him into global superstardom. Because Inoue is already viewed as one of boxing's elite pound-for-pound fighters, defeating him would dramatically raise Nakatani's reputation worldwide. Such a win would likely create opportunities for massive pay-per-view events, unification fights, and future super fights across several divisions. It could also accelerate his movement into higher weight classes where even bigger legacy-defining opportunities exist. Beyond the financial rewards, defeating a fighter of Inoue's caliber would permanently secure Nakatani's place among boxing's elite names and potentially reshape the pound-for-pound rankings across the entire sport.
Man, he is. He's a very long, rangy type of fighter, but he needs distance. Oh yeah, he needs distance. But in the meantime, while you trying to close distance and you letting your hands go, he's looking to punch in between your shots too. And that's why I think he can catch and hurt in a way, for real. That's why I think in between, in a way, probably would throw a big shot. Usually when he throws big punches, he drops the opposite hand. Or usually when Inoue throws a big shot, and if he misses, he's out of position sometimes. And Nakatani's gonna be looking to fill those holes, man. He's gonna look to fill those holes. Remember, he got the longer reach. He's still at 68.5, not that much, 1 inch. Believe it or not, Inoue got some pretty long arms. You know, for 5'5", at 67.5. But there's gonna be a height difference, so Inoue's gonna have to, you know, punch up. You know, at Nakatani, you know, which could shorten that distance a little bit for him. You know, he's gonna have to really step in, and I think that's the beauty about it.
As the fight approaches, fans remain divided over what will ultimately decide the outcome. Will Naoya Inoue's explosive power, aggression, and finishing instincts prove too much once again? Or can Junto Nakatani's timing, reach, intelligence, and counter-punching expose vulnerabilities that few opponents have managed to target successfully? One thing is certain, this fight has all the ingredients necessary to become an unforgettable battle between two of the finest fighters in modern boxing.
Nakatani springs the upset. Malik, you said it wouldn't even be an upset, right? Do you think that would mean, as I said earlier, we would see a rematch because Inoue is such a big star? Or are there other possibilities for Nakatani, Malik?
Max, it's this thing in boxing that goes on, right? That sometimes when the right guy wins, big things happen in boxing, bigger things happen in boxing. But in this case, not saying Nakatani would be the wrong guy, but the numbers say that he shouldn't win. And if he win, he doesn't, in my opinion, people won't call for and demand the crossover fights like him fighting Dan Rodriguez, like him fighting Espinoza. And that's just like that I would like that. That would be a little bit the unfair part about boxing is because some guys are picked because the bigger fights fans get more excited about, and if the underdog, quote unquote, with Nakatani is supposed to be coming and win, a lot of people's like, okay, well, I guess where do we go from here now? They're not as excited. But saying that, still, I still have Nakatani.